Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 15th day of April 2025. I'm here in studio with Mark Nyamita from Uriri, Julius Ruto from Keses, Njeri Maina from Kirinyaga, and Richard Onyonka from Kisii County. Now, there's a budget policy statement that was approved by Parliament. It will now paves way for the National Treasury to draft the budget estimates, which should come to the House before the end of this month?
Yeah, by 30th of April.
By 30th of April, yeah. And so it looks like we may spend at least 4.2 trillion shillings the financial year 2025-2026. There will be a deficit of about 831 billion shillings, which will be financed through local borrowing and external borrowing. The local borrowing takes the lion's share of over 600 billion shillings. And also, you will know that there's a cost that comes with financing or servicing debt. We don't know what the estimates will be this time, but of course also looking at the government, the national government will be spending to the tune of 2.5 trillion shillings, and the counties will be getting more than 400 billion shillings if things go as per plan. Now, Mheshimiwa Ruto, let me begin with you, because when you are reflecting on that, last year we were promised that there will be zero-based budgeting starting the financial year 2025-2026. Have you seen any evidence of implementing that promise?
Well, some, and for Kenyans, I think that's a desired level where we'll have a budget that is balancing on itself and relying on its own resources. But rather, to say the truth is that, of course, the economic challenges this country has been going through and the consistent debt financing, especially on the interest, which proves to be very expensive. If you look at our CFS, it's too huge, more than 1 trillion.
By CFS, you mean?
By CFS, it means interest on loans, of course, both domestic and foreign loans, which locks into the budget. If you look at our budget, it's structured in around 3 sectors. There's the development aspect, there is the recurrent for personnel, emoluments and operations, and then there is servicing the debt interest, which is a fast charge. So for that one, you will still have to appreciate that for us to be able to continue, and by law, it's a fast charge.
Yeah.
As long as we have a debt existing and there is interest yielding it, by law, it's a fast charge in our budgets, and it's more than last year. It was 1.3 trillion. This year, of course, we also expect not to come down from that one. So it's still hitting on our fiscal space, and therefore, progressively, I would rather say progressively, when we build our framework of revenue collection, I mean the medium-term revenue strategies that the government is putting in place, I foresee that in future we will be going there, but it will not be very certain. It will not be very certain. No miracle will happen.
But that promise on zero-based budgeting, where every expenditure has to be justified,
yes,
you're starting from zero.
Yes.
That was the promise by the president.
Yes.
Have you seen any evidence of that?
Well, yes, I can say, I dare say that, because if you look at even the recent supplementary that we are doing, Critical is trying to look at those areas that funds were voted in and there were no clear priorities on it. They were moved to priority areas. So probably that's a discipline.
That is by Parliament?
Yes. I mean, of course, it's Parliament who does the budget.
But zero-based budgeting was to begin from the National Treasury. That's what I'm asking. As a parliamentarian, have you seen it?
Well, we've discussed the budget policy statement. We are waiting to see the estimates. But still, if you look at the discussion around the budget, because we've just done the supplementary budget, the discussion around there is looking critical. That's why every departmental committee is able to scrutinize every State Department or every ministry budget, every MDA budget, looking critically on the expenditure areas that they have done and trying to reappropriate resources to a priority area. That is, to me, I think that's a step forward as a country, Kenya. We must appreciate that we are going the right direction into a zero-based budget. It's not a one night of discussion or effects, but rather it's a very progressive. So I dare say that we are going that direction.
Interesting. We're going that direction.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Maina, have you seen it yourself?
Sam, I haven't seen it. I am waiting to see it. I am hoping my good friend here, Honorable Ruto, can share the deets from the inside. Perhaps he is aware of what is coming. And somewhat worries me is that we are borrowing, but we cannot see return on investment in terms of what the Kenyan taxpayer is expecting. We've seen recent reports of monies in Swiss banks' accounts, and we've seen some in gold deals that are carted away offshore. And we have seen the Auditor General's report. And it's quite unfortunate And as a young leader, I do wonder, how long shall we take to recover from this pitfall that we seem to be just digging deeper and deeper into? And how can Parliament, as it is, Sam, and as you're aware, and we all are, that in 2024, Parliament was unable to execute their mandate as per the wishes of the people, culminating to the very infamous 2024 finance bill process. So this year, as we prepare to have the budget estimate tabled and to have a vote head for the finance bill, whether it will be an omnibus or one singular document, I do want to ask members of Parliament to introspect and to really think about the nation and the Kenyan populace and the Kenyan taxpayer, who has no room whatsoever to be squeezed any further. And we know we have a budget estimate of around 4.2 trillion, which is more ambitious than last year's estimates. And we really hope that Parliament can just listen to the Kenyan people for once and make sure that we do cater to their interest. And we know public participation is done as a PR agenda. Let us make sure that every single member of Parliament engages with their people and gets to understand the gist of things before we vote for this year's finance bill.
Mheshimiwa Nyamita, when you're looking at, because at the end of the day, because of the growing demands, we are just able to allocate slightly over 700 billion shillings to development in a budget of 4.2 trillion shillings. What do you think must be the priorities? And if you've interacted with the budget policy statement, do you see any shift towards controlling costs, which must be controlled?
Thank you, Sam. Let me say first that, budget policy statement is basically just a general guideline in terms of the full basket of resources to be allocated in whichever sector. On the issue of zero-based budgeting, to be very honest to Kenyans, it is almost an impossibility for now to go on zero-based budgeting. It is our wish. But the journey towards zero-based budgeting must begin at some point. Why am I saying so? Look at the commitments that were done, and I've had the privilege, Senator Onyonka and I served in last Parliament, and we were in that very, very committee. If you look at the commitments that the government has done over the years, for example, under the road sector in itself, the famous Mau Mau roads, is costing the taxpayer almost over 100 billion. And it is a commitment that has to be factored in. And we have committed resources. We do not have. That particular set of roads is only in one section of the country. If you were to execute that in one particular year, other places would be crying that they do not want. So what is it that is a prudent thing to do? Is to try and achieve a bit of a balance. Let those ones go on, but let also other regions get a bit. Therefore, you cannot actually go on a zero-based budgeting. We have debts, which, to be fair, whereas this government has also incurred a few, some debt over the last 2 years, but the real issue is that the debts we incurred over the last 10 years of the Uhuru Kenyatta regime. Because when Kibaki left, we were almost towards a zero-based budgeting. It would have been possible. But the 10 years that followed, there was heavy lifting. There was a lot of borrowing. And because government exists in perpetuity, they had the commitments that we actually made, we have to honor them. And because we have to honor them, the taxpayers have to bear the cost of it, sadly, for that matter. Now, speaking to the 700 billion, which is available for purposes of development, I actually pity my good brother John Mbadi, because if he has 700 billion on the demands of this nation, listen even to members of Parliament, including all of us here. When you listen to Ruto, you listen to my sister here in our constituency. The things that they want the government to do in my own county alone is more than 700 billion. And when I speak to them, they are all priority. I want roads, I want electricity, we want water, we want all those sort of things. And that applies across. But the basket is only 700 billion. Then when you say, okay, let us also increase 1 or 2 taxation here, of course, the Kenyan person is now heavily squeezed. is saying they're raising up their hand that we cannot tax them any further. So the 700 billion, if you were to ask me, would be to put it more in infrastructure that is going to help in growing the economy, like roads, which is opening up regions that enables the goods from the farm to the market.
Right.
Yeah. So if I were sitting in John Mbadi's place, is that money I would put it into critical infrastructure that is business enabling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Duoling, the Nairobi, Limuru, Nakuru, all the way to the border, Malaba, is a very critical transit road, and it can expand our economy. You know, for quite some time, we've ignored that particular route, and it would have transformed our country by large and by magnitude in terms of volumes that it would bring along the way.
How much would that cost, that road?
I think it's cost, did I hear it's almost 200 billion.
200 billion.
The last figure came out was 600 billion. Sami, could I...
Just a moment. There's something, Mheshimiwa Nyamita, you've said, that the Mau Mau roads are costing 100 billion shillings. Where are you getting a figure from?
From the statements from the ministry. It's actually 900 and something billion.
900 billion shillings for Mau Mau roads?
Yes. 90 billion, sorry.
90?
Yes.
Because the figures I have here is that the Kenya National Highways Authority was talking about it costing 30 billion shillings. And this is a 540-kilometer road connecting Nyeri, Murang'a, Kiambu, and Nakuru.
There are also other in-routes. If you look at Murang'a...
It is actually costing 95, not 950, it's 95 billion, almost 100 billion.
Okay. Please check out the source of that figure, then you can have a conversation about it, because the reports that have been done before is about that figure that I'm citing here.
It began actually less than 30 billion, but by the time they are full contracting for the whole, for all the roads, it's actually 95 to 97 billion, and it's networks, yes.
Okay. Senator Onyonka, your reflections about, because they also raise important issues of every other constituency wants something. Kenyans want something, but the basket is not as expansive.
Thank you. This is a very good topic. I wish we had a lot of time to discuss this. To be honest with you, Sami, this whole exercise is just hogwash. All right, I sit in the budget committee in the Senate. You look at what is going on. You're talking about us having zero-based budgeting. We can never have zero-based budgeting. Why? Because we have passed laws in the Senate and the National Assembly. Which laws have we passed? Where we have actually allowed the consolidated fund to be accessed by the Treasury at any one time. We are in a position right now where our recurrent expenditure is at between 75 up to 80%. We, as a country, are in a position whereby we have excessive commitments, which include these borrowed funds. Historically, Kenya has borrowed money, whether it was a Eurobond or whatever borrowing that we did, it was targeting specific projects which were being done after government policy explained and came out with the agenda of what this purpose of this project is going to be. All right? But what have we done as a country? Basically, if you look at Sami, look at every single thing that we are doing in the country today. Excessively borrowing. We are in a position whereby we are not investing the money that we are borrowing in those sectors. Look at our agriculture. As far as we are concerned, the only thing we keep talking about is how the KK government introduced subsidized fertilizer and what is going on. And of course, the bags, 40 million bags increased and everything. And oops. And you saw 2 weeks ago, there was an advertisement, somebody's importing maize.
Yep.
All right? And yet we have been told, in fact, the maize now, Kenya is able to produce all its maize. We don't have to import this maize. Next, you're going to see the same thing with sugar. My point is, Sami, to me, issues that need to be tackled are very simple and very clear. And it has never been complex.
Yeah.
For real. Look at the case where my colleagues who are in the National Assembly, where I used to be, and Sami, I'll tell you, I make the first confession that there is nobody who would have wanted to kill somebody if CDF was touched. I would have slapped somebody if you told me that bursaries could be stopped. And yet the reality is that if you take the money that is in CDF, you take the money that we are giving the Women Fund, you take the money that is going to the National Executive, you take the same money that is going to county government, all this money under education, the money is actually enough for us to budget for free education. Why are people fighting?
You need to give us quantum, Senator.
My brother, that's why I said this topic, if we wanted, we come with the figures and the data, we would sit here for 3 hours, and I would explain to you that the amount of money that we are giving out in bursaries, which is being pilfered by everybody, is enough if you put it together from university funding, from capitation to secondary schools, from the money that is being given as bursaries by governors, by their deputies, by the women rep, by the member of parliament, by the senator, you can access that money. My argument is very simple. These gentlemen need to make sure that our poor people are accommodated. What do we do? Kibaki did it. Let's go back to free education. Remove money from the hands of politicians. What is happening right now? We are taking money and we are giving it to politicians. You saw what my party leader Raila said the other day. How can members of parliament, they're the ones who are contracting for these jobs. They're the ones who are doing business within their sub-counties. They're the ones who are building classrooms. They're the ones who are doing roads.
Maybe Senator.
Then you, let me finish, bro.
Let's go proceed.
Please. Right now, Raila is in broad-based government. Anything he says, anything he says.
I wanted to draw him. I wanted to inject him and just remind him.
Yeah.
There is a case that DPP was prosecuting on 3rd July 2020 in relation to the CDF of, when he was the member of parliament, where he used the CDF to procure sugar, and there was a mother there. So I don't know.
Thank you, Sammy.
That one is still disturbing his mind.
No, he's the gentleman. Excuse me. Sorry, next time. Next time, excuse me.
Forced completely the member of.
No, I was speaking. He interrupted me.
Correct. So that we don't give.
No, but he interrupted me. I have a right of reply. I won the case. I won the case. Listen, I won the case. Don't defame me. And the government paid me. So I want to ask you, leave that matter. That has been 16 years ago.
Something I wanted to
wait, that was, just wait. 16 years ago, the case took me, Sammy. I won the case. So let's not be there. I'm talking about,
but there's something
I am talking about you people. No, but I was making the argument.
There's something
then you stopped me.
The Republic of Kenya.
You stopped me not to speak.
Yes.
You stopped me.
Senator, let's listen to what Raila Odinga had to say about the involvement of members of parliament.
You are stealing all the money.
Utilization of it.
Let us devolve funds to the counties. And as I was told the MPs, and I disagree, CDF, national government, give that CDF national government, but to the counties, not the MPs. Full levy. Members of Parliament, Your Excellency, have no business concerning roads. The role of a member of Parliament is clearly stated. Representation, legislation, and oversight. How do you oversight when you yourself are actually implementing? Those funds should go to the counties. And if the governors mess up with those things, then we deal with the governors themselves. But they don't tie the hands of governors. And then the MPs go and say, mimi ndio nimejenga barabara hii, mimi nimejenga barabara hii, nimejenga shule hii, niko hospitali hii, governor hajafanya chochote. Because the governor has not been given the money. Give the money to the governors. That devolution work properly. And that's why I say that if they don't do it, we'll make it an election subject. Campaign properly against the members of parliament. So that members of parliament should allow governors to do their work and then do oversight, which is your constitutional duty.
All right, so he makes a case against members of parliament having a role in implementation of some of these funds, like the CDF. There's a decision of the Supreme Court, is it the Supreme Court, that gave NGCDF up to June 2026? So even as we approach this cycle, which begins in July 2025, what is the thinking in aligning with the decision of the court?
Let me first correct something that my good senator has said, which is not true. After, I think, just before the recess of last parliament, Honorable Passaris brought in a proposal, a motion, I actually seconded that motion on the floor, which was seeking to consolidate all the bursaries from all the quarters, from the presidential bursary, NGCDF, and all the other bodies of government that are actually giving out bursary, including the money for help that is actually being given. And she was seeking that, we consolidate this into one kitty and whatever. We called the Minister of Education to Parliament and said, and members didn't have a problem letting go of the bursaries and consolidating them. But when the computation was actually done, even if you consolidated all those resources together, it is still not adequate to provide for free education according to the Minister of Education. So when you say it, let me tell you, if we were to consolidate, and if we were to consolidate all the bursaries into one kit, and we are guaranteed that our children can go for free education from primary to university, we will go on holiday, because that's the biggest headache for us as leaders. And we wanted to do that, but it is not adequate. Number two,
who is supposed to assure us?
Sorry? No, what I'm saying, we checked on the amounts, because all you need to do is look at the total allocation that is for CDF, which is about 20 billion, take away 40%, because you cannot allocate bursary more than 40%.
So sorry, the allocation for CDF is 20 billion. The total kitty?
I'm talking about the total kitty for the whole, I'm saying 50 billion, about 51. 51 billion.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 51 billion, you can only allocate 40% of it. So 40% of that 51 billion would bring you to about 20 billion thereabout. Okay? So that 20 billion, if you took, because sometimes you might think that it is a lot of money that is there, but it is only 20 billion. So if you took 20 billion from CDF, pick the money that the counties actually allocate, pick the money that is under presidential bursary, pick the money that is under GAF, which is far much less, and consolidate all this together with the money that is actually being given to the Minister of Education. And we asked them, can this be able to fund then free education from primary to the university? And it was inadequate. And we said...
Sammy?
Sorry, Senator. Did they tell you how much it would cost?
Yes, they did. I just don't have the figures exactly, but yes, it was not. Actually, when we consolidated that, we would still fall short of close to 35 to 40%.
Thank you,
I don't have the exact figures.
Already that particular...
But allow me to land, Senator. I agree that the best way would be if devolution were to work. And my good senator here, who oversights counties, will agree with me. CDF in itself, and I can say, today take it to the referendum to the people. The people will say you retain CDF. And that will be a referendum that the people will win with about 90%. And I'll tell you why. And I support, let me just learn. I support that money needs to be devolved to our institutions, and we make our institutions work, including the county governments. In fact, even if we could take 50% of national government money and take it to the county so that it works, that would be great. But let me tell you something, Sam, something that people are also forgetting. Today, walk around our counties, and my good senator here oversights them. Walk around our counties. Our counties will struggle to show you ECD classes. ECD classes. They will struggle to show you a single ECD class.
Have they allocated resources for them?
Yes, they have money.
Sammy, can I?
They have, just hold on. So you'll find that they're struggling. So whereas we will be supportive of money being devolved.
Is CDF succeeding because of the presence of the
less pilfering,
or it's the structure?
In fact, look,
it's a structure.
CDF Act.
Let me tell you. Even now, with the subsequent, when the case for CDF has been in Parliament has been in the court for a long time, and every other time, when CDF actually began, members of Parliament used to walk with a check in their pockets.
True.
They used to actually walk with a check in their pocket. So they would go for a rally and they say, okay, you want something, we write for you. It has since moved that the member of Parliament in himself does not even second someone to the CDF committee. We don't have a role in the new law as it is. And that is actually what was said.
Okay, Mheshimiwa Ruto, you wanted to make an interjection that I can
Yes. The message was this.
Yeah.
Listening, combining what Honorable Raila is saying and what my good friend Senator Onyonga is putting across for Kenyans, NGCDF Act 2015 and its amendment has totally separated the office of Member of Parliament and the execution. In any case, NGCDF operationalization is undertaken by State Department of National Planning and not the office of the Member of Parliament. It's a treasury function with the board sitting in Nairobi. And that board has decentralized the powers to the NGCDF committee, which also by law have been guided or now they are going to be identified in line with the Constitution. So true to say is that I don't understand as to why you want to kill something that is visible to the lives of the people as far as education is concerned. Number two, if we say today we collapse NGCDF and put money to counties, have we started by correcting the Constitution fourth schedule and give those roles that NGCDF or NGAV is addressing to county governments? Because NGCDF is focusing on basic education from primary level all throughout to the higher education. Whereas the issues to do with any other service that is provided under fourth schedule has been totally removed, including even sports. There was a time NGCDF was supporting sports and youth, but by virtue that is a function that is evolved, it has already, and Senator Onyonga is aware. To the extent, I want to know, and in any case, this budget that is put under CDF, is it a budget that touches on division of revenue? Because whenever division of revenue is being discussed, if you look at the build-up of division of revenue, it critically allocates resources as per the functions of devolution. Whether they are enough, whether they are not enough, that is something that should be discussed. But if you look at the division of revenue, it's trying to address the critical fourth schedule of the Constitution that is giving the 14 functions to devolution. Right. And it's aligning, costing it every other element in terms of the formula that is being provided. And now it's going to be shared across the counties. Of course, that formula will be able to dictate in line of in terms of demand. Okay. So I wanted us to discuss and agree. The whole issue is what is the evil in decentralizing the national government functions to the constituency level.
Because that is not the structure of the Constitution.
That's not the structure. Thank you.
But I'm asking this.
Sami.
Look at this is decentralization, and there's a body organ undertaking this function, and NGCDF board, which is a saga under the Ministry of Treasury.
Sami, could I? Sami.
You see, Mheshimiwa Ruto, that's your argument against a court.
But that's what the law is saying.
A court decision.
What court was prosecuting was discussing the issue of 2013.
No.
The
court made a decision on NGCDF Act 2015.
But look at the pronunciation. Look at the merits of that case. Can you agree with that? The merits?
I'm looking at
it is referring to a law that has already been
judgment, and actually these are the orders. Yes. The National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015, as amended in 2022 and 2023, declared unconstitutional. The NGCDF, the fund itself and all its programs, projects and activities shall cease to operate at the stroke of midnight on June 30th, 2026.
But look at the real merits of the case.
What do you mean?
The pronunciations. All those things which are mentioned in that particular case has already been defeated by the amendments which have been made.
Could I please?
Senator.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ruto, I'll not revisit the other past issues. Let me come only 2 points. And in this case, I want to really persuade my brother Nyamita. Our argument is very simple, bro. The Ministry of Education has a budget of 630 billion shillings. What is the role of the Ministry of Education under the current dispensation? What we are arguing is very simple, my brother. The National Assembly should sit down, and all of you are intelligent and clever. If you wanted to change this structure to help our people, you will do it. I'm not talking about only bursary money. What I'm saying is, let us take the 636 billion, which is the total amount of money that Kibaki governed Kenya with his first and second year. The whole republic. He was paying all salaries.
Things have changed.
Hold on. Population has remained the same.
Mini CBS.
Hold on, has remained the same.
No.
My argument.
Population is growing.
But
it's not remained the same.
The change in percentage is 4%.
That is about 20 years ago.
No, it's 4%. Difference is 4%. Allow me to make my argument, please. My position is very simple. Let us take the money which is given one ministry where you find cartels are moved in their printing books, where you find that money for capitation, nobody actually knows when it goes and when it doesn't, where the number of teachers who have been employed, nobody has the data. We've never done biometric registration. We don't know how many there are. I'm saying, let you people who are the National Assembly and the Senate, we sit down and begin to interrogate the issues affecting Kenyans. And this, for me, budget of 630-something billion shillings, you can pick 400 billion and provide free education, pay your salaries of all the teachers, and you will still have cheap change.
No.
The salary,
You know, Senator cannot...
353 billion shillings go to the Teacher Service Commission.
Thank you, but we are at 634.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, my argument is...
more than 50% of the education budget is paying teachers.
Thank you, but I'm also saying, I am also saying, nobody today can give me the figure of how many teachers we've employed. We don't have that figure.
I think we should know.
So my argument is, no, let me finish my argument, Mr. Ruto.
Why would you say that? Even if
Let me say that. Have you ever seen the list of all the total number of teachers?
I haven't seen it.
Thank you. That's my argument. My argument is most probably half the number are ghost workers.
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
Allow me.
No.
Allow me.
No.
Honorable Yamita, you just joined government. No, what I'm saying is this. If the figure isn't there, why am I not getting it?
I think Senator Onyonka is completely out of order.
No.
To come and make populist
Yamita,
without any backing.
To make my
without
argument.
any backing.
You saw the other day, they said the government has 20,000 ghost workers.
The truth
It
remains.
is there. They did not tell you that those...
of them are teachers.
That's what I'm saying. Who presented that? Nobody did. Number two, my argument is very simple. Gentlemen, the Constitution says what our roles is. What is our role?
I know.
Member of Parliament, you legislate?
Oversight?
Oversight?
And represent, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is the role of the women rep?
The same.
What is the role of the senator?
The same.
My argument is very simple. Why is it that you are given money which you're handling under NCDF? Wait!
No, it's okay. Carry on.
But let me make my argument.
Finish your work.
My argument is very simple. All of us have got the same job description. We either agree that we are going to leave handling public money and we oversight government so that we can get results, or give everybody the money because that is where the kitty is. Okay. And that is where the money is being shared.
I want to hear from Mheshimiwa Jerry Maina here. You're the lawyer here. And I don't know if you've had a chance to interact with the judgment of the High Court.
She's oversighting GAF. She wants to bring
Allow
her own
me to
GAF,
make
yes.
my comments. You know, I've allowed the gentlemen to have their banter. I was very courteous about it. Some have always thought that the way forward and the future is consolidating all the bursary kitties that we have. We have the presidential, we have the governors, we have the county MPs, rather woman reps, we have the single constituency member of parliament, and we also have the MCAs. And for me, I do not think it's a tenable situation in the long run, because you do find a duplication in terms of sometimes application for bursary. So you will find that there's a student who's managed to get a bursary for myself, from, let's say, Mheshimiwa Ruto, from the MCA, and there's another child who is perhaps even more needy, who has not had the opportunity to get the bursary from myself and from Mheshimiwa Ruto.
What do you mean,
So duplication,
bursary from you?
Duplication, because from my office. From my office.
What is your role exactly?
No, NGAF is also
that's
on
what
the same presence
what is the role
as
of
NGCDF.
the Member of Parliament?
I am supposed to oversight. I am just a patron of NGAF. We have a separate office, just like the Members of Parliament, single constituency, have explained to you, that the separate offices are very distinct in terms of how they collect the data for the bursaries. They have a committee that vets the bursaries. They have the headquarters that approves the applications for the bursaries. And my role, where I come in, is to ensure that if the NGAF headquarters have approved a list of, let's say, 500 students from Kirinyaga County to receive through the NGAF kitty bursaries, I ensure that what is provided in the data is children who are selected from needy families, children from Kirinyaga County.
How do you do that?
Because
a lot of work.
What do you mean, Sam? You just we have the database. Some of us even have
500 to determine they are from Kirinyaga or not. We've heard of students who benefit from multiple constituencies.
I can tell you some what I do, and I think recently I wrote to the NGAF headquarters office in regard to some of the bursaries that I had flagged. perhaps single constituency members of parliament need to have maybe perhaps an application or maybe use AI to do that because they have a larger kitty. I only have around 3 million Kenya shillings to work with in terms of bursaries. So that number is not so huge that we cannot have an office set up where we do make the calls.
Read the law,
yes,
representation, legislation,
and oversight. What is oversight to you, Sam? Oversight is review.
Can I just read the question, then you can respond to Maina? So when you look at those three functions, what you're doing, where does it lie?
Oversight. Oversight. NGAF is under the Ministry of Gender. It is a state organ.
Do you oversight as an individual, as a part of the institution of parliament?
No, I do oversight as a member of parliament.
What I'm asking is, the oversight role of a member of parliament, and all of you
It is singular and collective. Are you saying that is not singular?
So if you oversight...
Are you saying that the oversight role of parliament is only collective?
When you oversight the fund in Kirinyaga, what do you do with that information?
What do I?
What do you do with that information?
I raise it with the NGAF HQ. I raise it with the relevant committee that oversights the NGAF fund. NGCDF also has a committee that oversights the fund. So in terms of that, if I have any queries that I want to raise or a statement on the floor, I refer to the same and have the committee handle the issue and respond on questions on validity of the issues that I have raised. So in members of parliament, the oversight role is not only collective, as we see it as a house. It is also a singular oversight duty. So unless there's any conflict where perhaps I sit in the fund and say, I am giving bursaries to this person, XYZ, and that is not the way
I don't know.
The regulations work.
You are the ones who write
It is not the way the regulations work.
Because the Constitution talks about the National Assembly exercises oversight over national revenue and its expenditure. It doesn't say the woman representative or the member of National Assembly. It says the National Assembly is an institution.
Yes.
Unless my reading is wrong.
What is very critical here, does NGCDF, does NGAF, doesn't it form an expenditure of the national revenue?
So do you oversight it as an individual or through the House?
We do it as we have a committee. In fact, 2 levels of committees. The audit committee, which is the centralized finance committee, and we have the NGCDF committee, which looks at the policies and operations. I'm putting that on. That is part of overall of an oversight. When it comes to implementation of the projects at constituency level where I represent, I undertake oversight to ensure that particular money which has been earmarked for that level actually serves to ensure that the public receives the good.
Absolutely. No, the role of oversight and representation, every other time when I oversight development projects actually being carried out by national government in my constituency, I do it on behalf of the National Assembly. I am a member of the National Assembly. So when, for example, forget about even this issue of CDF, when there is a road...
Please repeat that, you just said.
When I oversight projects that are actually happening in my constituency funded by the national government, I do it on behalf of the National Assembly. That is why, if I go to my constituency, for example, now... So, for example, when I go to my constituency today, so we are going through a budget process. They will allocate money to construct a road from Stella to Gogo, for example, in my constituency, which is 500 million. There is a contractor on ground, and the contractor is ongoing. So when I come from National Assembly, I have the information that the contractor has actually been paid for doing 5 kilometers. When I go to my constituency, I can even drive and check whether that 5 kilometers has actually been done. When I find that that is not done, I come back with that information to the National Assembly through a question, on the floor of the House, through a statement, or I appear through...
Is that oversight or representation?
Both.
It's both.
Which are my roles? Which are my roles?
But let me, what is the definition of an oversight?
Sam,
you tell me.
I'm asking, yes, that's what it's clearly saying, but standing on behalf and ensuring every coin, every taxpayer's money are utilized when in line with...
I want us to transition. Senator, what is it?
The shock I'm having is that, and I totally understand where my brothers are coming from. Honestly, if we want to perform the functions that the Constitution has prescribed to us, let us perform them. If we want to run the money by whichever means and any approach that you want to use, let us agree we are going to run the money. The truth is, Sam, I want to correct the image that my brothers have given on 2 things. Number 1, devolution has not failed. Some governors have failed miserably. If you go to Murang'a, look at what the governor there is doing, an excellent job. If you come to Nairobi, everybody tells you Nairobi is failing. Why? Not because I have the details or whatever it is, but I look at the Auditor General's reports. You look at everything. My argument is devolution is only receiving 15% of national shareable revenue. We are handling 15% when the national government is handling 85%.
Yeah.
All right? There are issues at the national level, just that we have issues also at the county levels. My argument is very simple. I think legislation and the legislators and members who are running our legislation should come up, Honorable Nyamita, let us agree. Like what Mzee Raila said, let us make the decision.
Yep.
Whatever it is. If we decide the MP keeps NCDF, that is okay. Let's put it in the law. If we agree, the women are like she said, just wait.
But it will still be
correct this one, Senator.
No, what I'm saying, I'm saying,
Messaging to Kenyans.
Sami, what I'm saying is this.
Cannot keep giving wrong message.
No, let me finish.
His point.
I don't know why.
Get your point.
But my brother Ruto.
You see, the moment you say a message and sustain it,
No,
it turns out to be.
but that's the reality.
Well, it's not true.
That is,
Yes.
The viewers are very clever.
yes.
They can tell between
They know what is going on.
telling the truth. Yeah, go ahead.
Kenyans, I mean, we can sit here, I can sit here and talk about, oh, you know, my role is I'm oversighting. In fact, all the money that is coming in as a member of parliament, I'm going to check the roads. No, 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 no. What we are saying is this. Shouldn't we be discussing amongst ourselves whether that is the right thing we are doing? And I'm not questioning the legality. I want us first to engage. Are we able, as legislators, who go and sit in National Assembly, who are waiting for a budget to be introduced by the president, who are asking for favors from that same budget, who then come and sit and say, me, you are going to give me 50 million for roads, I want 50 for bursary, and I want 100 for this. That is the money that is going to the kitty. And members of parliament legitimately, Honorable Nyamita, legitimately, there are areas in our country where CDF has done wonders. Can we now do it within the law?
Okay.
That is all I'm asking.
All right.
But that's
Then why? So Sami, the last question is, Nyamita, the last question is, was Mzee Raila talking nonsense?
No. The thing is this: we completely agree that.
He's your party leader, the two of you, Senator.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
and I'm saying,
raised critical issues.
and I'm saying,
Yeah.
we support the devolution. Actually, the money that needs to go to the counties
Yeah.
should even be more than, because the CDF is only 2.5%. If you add it, it's going to be 17. We need even 40%. Actually, the ideal. In fact, in the Azimio was saying up to 40% was actually going to go to the counties. It is the ideal thing to do.
All right.
All we are saying
Yeah.
is that as it is going on there, it must be followed by action.
All right.
It must be followed by action. That's what we're saying.
We know.
Some of us,
we
we are
obviously
worried.
there's a
Some of us,
challenge.
we are worried with the 15% Senator is saying.
Yeah. So the 15%.
We cannot even see. We are worried. Now they are being
all right.
expended.
Gentlemen.
And you
Look at the Auditor General's
Gentlemen,
report.
it's
on what MPs are doing with bursary money.
Senator, please. Now,
I mean,